Welcome back to the Mackem in the Middle podcast after another Sunderland League game, this time away to Stoke City, a game that did end in a 1-0 win for Sunderland, which is of course their second win of the season. And very shortly we'll get into everything that happened during the game. Again, refereeing decisions that certainly had an impact on the game, player ratings and whatnot. But first and foremost, Michael, like we said, first away win of the season. No, sorry, second away win of the season.
No, second. Come on. You just helped Bristol City already.
Yeah, forgot about that one already. Second away win of the season, second win of the season in total. We'll get on to the performance and what happened in the game, but at this stage, at any stage in the season, the most important thing is getting 3 points, and that's exactly what we did.
Can we just play away from home every week? Because we haven't won at home yet, have we?
We haven't.
No, which is down the line that'll change. But you're right. I said in my own video, these are the type of results that you need if we're going to have a season of even just consolidating and being hopefully well above a relegation scrap. Then we need to be getting the odd away victory. We need to be starting to win our home games, really. But away from home, certainly, those are the type of games you're going to get. For me, Stoke, I've said it before, I think are a side that's underperforming. I think they've got better players than what their position suggests. And to be fair, we probably played them at the right time because there's growing unrest with Michael O'Neill. So really, if you take the lead and then put them under pressure, then you're going to be asking questions. They might feel the nervousness from the crowd. But you're right that we kept a clean sheet yesterday, which we obviously haven't done since coming into the Championship. And you need results like that. Yeah, and any stage of the season, the most important thing is getting the 3 points. Performance wasn't the best. We've seen us play better than that, but we'll cut the lads the slack on that one. It's a very, very important victory, nevertheless.
Yeah, obviously you were at the game, Dylan, and you said you had your first chant aimed at you, didn't you?
Oh, what an experience! I had the good old "you fat bastard" from a small section of the home end, and I just say what an honour and a privilege it was to be in their heads.
You've got to be an important person to have that aimed at you.
Yeah. I felt like I got amongst men in
that. Please tell me you cupped the ear at them at full time.
Oh, I did better than that. I lifted my shirt up.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. Wouldn't expect anything different from that.
Oh no, of course not. You just have to laugh about it. Like, I don't see how people get wound up by stuff like that. I thought it was funny as hell, mate.
I think I've seen it a few Sunderland games before where they've started chanting it, and then whoever it's getting chanted at ends up in the home end getting absolutely pummeled and then chucked out. So I'm glad that didn't happen to you, though.
Nah, never.
Sensible to some extent.
Of course, to some extent, yes.
But like I say, you were there. A good win away from home. Any game in this league, especially away from home, is one that Sunderland, especially this season, probably aren't expected to win. A lot of people would probably have took a point against Stoke. I think they have only finished 14th as their highest position in the last 5 years, and I think it was 16th at the time when we played them. So, like Michael said, probably the best time to have played them. They will probably bring a few more additions in. Obviously, Liam Delap was signed, and I think that was his first start for them since joining. He hadn't really had a pre-season, so in terms of up to sharpness, we're probably lucky to get away with playing against him when he's not quite up to speed, because he did look dangerous at times. But the away end again, where it's all you could hear on the stream, and I imagine it was pretty good when we scored, probably against the run of play again at halftime.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I was personally just praying that the whistle was going to blow, because I thought we were maybe going to concede, because we were really under some pressure towards the sort of end of that first half. And then obviously that Jack Clark put that ball in for Stewart, and he's just steamed forward and put it next to the far post, which and slotted it in, which was obviously a massive lift. And as I'm sure you can imagine, the limbs were unbelievable. I dropped everything out of my pockets. I was absolutely devastated. I looked like a right idiot walking around picking everything up after the whistle went. But yeah, no, I think what a time to score. I think that really sort of changed the momentum of going into the second half. I know Alex Neil said obviously that in his interview that I didn't really change what he was going to say, but I think you could see sort of there was a bit more confidence from our players, certainly after we managed to get a foothold in the game.
Yeah. No, so there was just the one change going into the game, Michael. Obviously, Dan Neil suspended. He will be back for Saturday's game against Norwich. Obviously, he was missing for this game. Corey Evans was named on the bench. He was kind of expected to miss the game in total, I think. I don't think he was meant to be involved at all, but he was on the bench. So obviously Jay Matete and Embleton started in midfield. And again, not to keep reiterating and saying the same thing every time, but especially during the first half, which again we'll get onto, it does show why we need a like-for-like replacement for the likes of, Corey Evans, possibly even Dan Neil as well, because Embleton, as good as he can be, is not a centre midfielder. And Michael has gone. That's interesting.
Well,
clearly a fan of Embleton.
Yeah, I'd pick up from what you're saying there. Then, yeah, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I really like Embleton. I think obviously Matete's got a lot of potential, but there's areas he needs to improve on.
I definitely prefer the way you say his name there, Matete.
Yeah, I just I've just woke up. It's not the right way to say it, but it sounds more exotic.
Sounds better. Yeah.
So we'll say Matete. But I mean, I was be sort of like the day before the match. I was sort of quite quietly confident about getting the result, and then like about 1 o'clock in the morning on the day, my mate was like staying at mine. It was in the other room, and I was just lying there in bed, and I was just thinking about the fact that we were going to be starting a midfield of probably Matete and Embleton against a typically physical Stoke midfield. And I started bringing a bit. I went in his room and I was like, I'm not feeling very confident anymore. But you know what? I think they did well. Obviously, we were a bit unfortunate to get about 47 yellow cards in the first half, which I think obviously caused some changes like Evans coming on. However, that certainly did calm me down a bit, because he really just came on and did what he has been doing recently, and just breaking up the play, just keeping the ball, calming everything down. So obviously it was nice to see him back on and fit to play. But yeah, no, I think I don't want to sound like I was being too cynical, but I think Matete and Everton fared much better than I was hoping. I think that was probably partially because Josh Laurent wasn't on the pitch, because I think he would have absolutely bullied the pair of them. But in terms of the midfield battle, I don't think we necessarily got bullied as much as I was expecting.
Yeah, and obviously Matete is a player that I think a lot of people expected to get loaned out this season. He didn't really feature too much in the opening kind of 2-3 games. Didn't really feature too much under Alex Neil in League One at all, really. But a lot of people thought he would be more suited to the Championship. He'd get a little bit more time on the ball. Obviously, he's still a young player. People seem to forget that, I think. Likewise with a few of our other players. But when he does play, obviously he's going to make mistakes. He's going to misplace passes. It's just what players do. But when he does play, he does look more like a Championship player than a League One player.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there was as you said, there was a few misplaced passes during yesterday, which are a bit frustrating. But for every one of those, there was also an instance where they were on the counter and he stuck the foot in and put a stop to it. So I mean, he's got the sort of the physicality and the legs to play in midfield in the Championship. He just needs to obviously brush up on those sort of technical areas a bit, and I think maybe he would benefit from a loan possibly, but at this point in time, we're not blessed enough in midfield. We don't have enough bodies, and I wouldn't be too upset if he ends up sticking around in with our squad for the season, because obviously he's shown in the more recent games that he can come on and do a job. So I'm sort of happy either way. I just hope that he can keep improving, because obviously when he first signed for us, he'd been linked with Premier League teams, and obviously his data showed that how much he was just above the sort of standards performance for these League One midfielders. And then when he came and he had the first few chances in the first team, he didn't really show it as much. However, I'll still, no matter what happens with him, I'll still forever love him for the tackle he put in against Wimbledon away when he landed in the technical area, because he went in that hard. But yeah, sort of maybe come there in like 2 weeks' time, we might have signed a midfielder or two. Maybe he gets loaned out, but if he doesn't, I'm not too upset, because he certainly looked to have been improving and growing in the side the past couple of games.
Yeah, and obviously on the first half, Michael, Alex Neil kind of touched on it in the interview after the game, and said that he was a little bit worried about how the game would go based off training on Friday. It's hard to remember the days when you're doing this the day after, but on Friday training, people were looking a bit fatigued. He was saying not quite up to the same levels that have been obviously earlier in the season. I think it's been pretty much every Saturday, Wednesday game since the start of the season now, I think, isn't it? Because I think it was Coventry at home, obviously, on the Sunday, and then I think it was the Sheffield Wednesday game midweek after that. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's been...
that was after Bristol City.
Was it?
But even so, from Bristol City till now, it's been a game every few days, last 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah. So obviously it's somewhat expected for players to kind of drop performance levels a little bit, look a little bit fatigued, a little bit leggy, because quite frankly, we have a starting 11 and that's it. We've talked about the depth and we will continue to talk about depth until the end of the transfer window, which thankfully or not thankfully is in about 10 days now. So by the time Norwich comes around, I'd like to think we have a few more bodies through the door. But when you've got the same starting 11 and players, you go back to that Sheffield Wednesday game, the players aren't really looking likely to step up into the first team for league games. So the team picks itself. It is expected that, these players will start to kind of fade out a little bit during games, and first 30, 35, possibly even 40 minutes of the first half, you could really see that, because I think you could easily argue that was the worst 40 minutes of football, certainly this season, but in terms of intensity, in terms of how, crisp we were passing the ball, pressing the ball, arguably the worst since Alex Neil's came in.
I would. That's not an audacious claim. I think that's pretty accurate. I don't know how much have you heard of me before I cut off, because I realised I was talking to myself there. But I'll repeat but apologies if you hear me repeating the point. But if you haven't, I'll say it anyway. But again, I think the fact we played on Sheffield United on Wednesday, and long story short, we gave a lot more into the game than we would have had to because of the red card. And then just 3 days later, you're at Stoke, when yes, they played on Wednesday as well, but they played at home, then at home again, whereas we had 2 away games. So naturally, I think I didn't give the players enough leeway for that when I was watching the game, because I agree with you. I thought first half the offensive performance from Sunderland was really bad. I thought it was one where we weren't pressing Stoke, we weren't trying to get at them, we weren't going down the channels, we were just giving the ball away more or less every opportunity. As the half wore on, I think the last 10 minutes of it, I think we started to look a bit more threatening, but we still didn't really look anywhere near what we're capable of. If you compare that to the QPR performance in the first half last week, for example, then and to that, it's night and day. It's chalk and cheese. It's 2 different things. Yeah. So it probably, in a way, I think I probably underestimated how much that Sheffield United game will have took a lot out of the players. So to be fair, to going into half time 1-0 up, I think was probably a really welcome break, because I think like Dylan was saying before, I think I would have just took being at 0-0, because I think Stoke was starting to get a foothold in it, even though I didn't think they looked too threatening. But obviously you have that nervousness when you're watching the game. And actually when Ross Stewart scored, it took me a minute to realise that he'd actually scored, because I thought the keeper had saved it and put it out for a corner or something. And then I saw the net bulge and then we went mental. But yeah, the first half was arguably the worst since Alex Neil's come in, but it was definitely the worst so far this season.
Yeah. And obviously you won't have heard it, Dylan, but during the first half, a certain commentator, Clive Clark, obviously from Stoke, was banging on about how Sunderland looked awful, how Stoke should be beating sides like this, he said, putting them to the sword, 2-3-0 easily at home. Yeah. So, he was reiterating about how poor Sunderland looked, how Stoke should be beating us easily. Quite frankly, made himself look like a bit of a twat, to be honest. But that 45th minute, first real chance of the game for Sunderland, I think. Very simple goal. And, if it's a goal against you, you're kind of fuming about how easy it was for us. Jack Clark gets the ball, plays the most simple ball over the top to Ross Stewart, who every day of the week, tired or not, is going to outrun Phil Jagielka, who I think must be about 65 this year. But he got on the end of it. And although the performance wasn't great during the first half, it's the best time to get a goal, especially under them circumstances.
Yeah, 100%, especially the way the game had been going up until that point. Obviously, it wasn't really like clear-cut chances that we were getting against it. It was more just that we're getting in our final third. There was a lot of corners, a lot of set pieces that was getting worrying, and then obviously we've just at the death of the first half gone down and scored the other end. And whatever that commentator's called, I hope that's absolutely ruined his day, because obviously
he actually posted on Twitter after. So everyone was tweeting at him and everyone was commenting and saying how much of an idiot he was looking, and I think he actually replied to something. He deleted it now. I'll see if I can find it. He replied to someone who was like having a go at his company. He was saying, I can't remember ever seeing you playing football or something like that. Something really salty, something really that triggered him, and he ended up deleting it. But he definitely got a bit of stick for what he was saying, and rightfully so, because I've never heard of more. You hear biased commentators all the time. You know, Frankie, Danny, they're probably two of the most biased out there. But in terms of just completely writing Sunderland off, I mean, you would have thought we were playing Man City the way he was describing Stoke, which certainly wasn't the case.
So he was just crying on, basically, right? That makes me very happy. But you see, I don't know. Obviously, as I said, I didn't hear what he was saying, but that if he's been basically implying that we are an easy side to beat, don't get me wrong, we were atrocious for most of that first half. But I don't know what he's been watching. Clearly, he hasn't watched any of our matches so far this season. We've because we've been in large spells. We've been, I'd argue. I don't want to say that we're dominating, but we've been very good against some very good teams. Obviously, we shut Coventry out for the best part of 90 minutes and then got that, conceded that unfortunate, very, very good goal, but obviously it was down to our defensive errors. So I mean, I think the only problem we've had so far this season is maybe just lack of, I don't want to say complacency, just, not being able to quite hold on for the full 90. Obviously, the last 10 minutes has been where we're slipping up, but clearly he's either on something or just hasn't watched us play football, because Stoke are an outflash and we've been shown that we're a formidable side in this league already. And this is with pretty much half a squad, because obviously we've still got most of our transfer business to do, and half our players have either been out injured or suspended. So I know you've got to be a bit biased for your own team, but sounds like he's just a bit of a mug, like.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt, but if he looks at the games we've had previously, if he watched most of the QPR game, he wouldn't be saying that, because that game we were literally dominant and really, really good.
I mean, to be fair, if he'd actually looked at football at all in the last 5 years, I don't think he'd be saying that, because I get the point of, if you're an established championship club, a team gets promoted, you'd possibly expect to beat them at home. We were in the same in League One. If a side came up from League Two, you'd be expecting to beat them. But Stoke's highest finish in the last 5 seasons is 14th. So they're nothing special. But the way he was going on literally implied that they were...
No, I agree with that. I personally have no issue with them expecting this season anyway. I have no issue with them expecting to beat us at home, because it's fair enough. Their expectation is higher than what ours is going to be. But I'll be annoyed if they're saying that in a few seasons' time, because in 2-3 seasons' time, where they want to be, I'd expect Sunderland to be competing at that position in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. But half-time came around, obviously good time to score a goal. Sunderland 1-0 up at the break. We made a couple of changes, Dylan. Corey Evans and obviously Bailey Wright coming on for Matete and Luke O'Nien, both who had picked up yellow cards. And obviously the referee certainly liked to dish out yellow cards. I think there was 8, maybe 9 in the game, I think. I think Sunderland picked up 6, I think, possibly 5. And obviously Stoke picked up a couple as well. So, but Corey Evans coming on especially, obviously Bailey Wright came on, he did a job as he usually does, but Corey Evans coming on, playing in midfield, just let Sun control the game in the second half.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think up until the point of him coming on, even after our goal, it was very nervy, because obviously if there's always a risk of coming out second half and then them getting one early on, and obviously as before the goal there was that sort of dominant spell from them. So Evans coming on, and as you said, he just broke the play, shut everything down. He was calm on the ball. He was just passing the ball out, getting everything. Wasn't putting a foot wrong, and it was really it did really settle my nerves personally, because like as I said, Matete had played well in some areas, but there was the occasional misplaced pass that was leading to like pointless counter attacks that we shouldn't have really been having to deal with. But I'm just glad to see that he's fit and that he's not going to be out for any longer than he has been, because I was worried when he'd been missing from obviously the Sheffield United game that maybe we were going to have another problem there with him being out the same way Ballard is. But no, let's all just be relieved that he's back on the pitch, which is also credit to him, because this is the polar opposite of what everyone was saying this time last season, when we all thought he was absolutely naff and finished. So fair play to him, like.
And he's been very important for Sunderland, Michael, when he's played. Obviously when he first joined the club, obviously he was experienced player from, I think it was Blackburn. We signed him for, I could be wrong on that, but I think it was Blackburn. Everyone thought he'd be a good signing. Started playing a few games, and it's fair to say he did become kind of the scapegoat, and I don't think that was unwarranted, because I think early performances were very poor. I always go back, I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the home games. I think he played 70 minutes in a midfield 2 and made 4 passes in the entire game. So he was, early stages. I do think he kind of hid in games, didn't want to get on the ball, didn't really want anything to do with it. But I can't remember another Sunderland player that's had quite the turnaround as he has, because he's went from being a player that no one wanted to see play to a player that if he's not on this team sheet, you worry about what's going to happen in the game.
Literal definition of 0 to hero, isn't it?
Yeah.
Based on your description. And you're right, the early performances from Corey Evans were criticism worthy because he wasn't asserting himself and wasn't showing enough authority in games, because the type of qualities he's got, he should be showing it. And I think you could tell second half that the difference in the level of control we had, and yes, Stoke still had their chances second half, as you'll probably go on to, but they didn't really penetrate Sunderland all that much for me. I felt that we were more than comfortable and more than matched them. And I think I'll give Alex Neil big credit. I mean, Alex Neil doesn't need any more credit than what he's got already, but we'll give him a bit more because I love him. He brought Bailey Wright and Corey Evans on at half time, and I love the fact that even though we were winning, he had the foresight to see that if that continued, we would not get the win. Because we were getting overran a bit, and we were getting a little bit forced back a bit too much into our own penalty box. So Evans coming on, to get onto your point, he helped control things, just winning the simple balls in front of him, just winning the second balls, if not the first balls, and was just calmly passing it around in midfield, which is such an underrated thing. It helps you calm things down. It helps you gain the foothold of the game and start to gain the control of it, and that helped us to get the win. So, and fair play to Corey Evans, because the end of last season he was very good, and I think he started this season pretty much where he left off the last.
Yeah. And obviously, once them changes were made, Dylan Sunderland obviously grew into the game in the second half, had a few chances themselves that, on another day we could have finished. But so did Stoke. They still pose a threat going forward. Obviously, Liam Delap on loan from Man City. Like I mentioned, he looked a handful all game. He's fast, he's strong. Obviously, he's played for Man City in the Premier League and scored goals. He's still a young player, so he's still got plenty of time to develop. And like I said, he hasn't really had a pre-season, hasn't had many minutes in the legs prior to yesterday's game. So again, it's kind of a blessing in disguise that we've played them at the time we have, because I think he will score goals for them. He'll prove to be a real handful throughout the season. But Sunderland held their own, defended well, held on to the ball a lot better than we did in the first half. And like I said, we still posed a threat going forward. And again, it's not going to be possible for Sunderland to perform well in every game for the whole season, especially with the squad the way it is now, because if Ross Stewart gets injured, we don't have anyone. If Alex Pritchard gets injured, Embleton's there, but he's not quite up to the same standard. So to be able to hold on to the win like we did, obviously the first clean sheet of the season as well, a few individual performances, especially at the back as well, which we'll get onto, just shows our starting 11 is more than good enough to compete in this league. But it's just about bringing extra players in to fight for them places, come on as a sub, change your game, and if players do get injured or if players do need a rest, they can step in and we don't lose any quality from it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, with the shape the squad's in now, as we've said, we've still got quite a bit of business to do. So we maybe don't have the numbers or maybe the quality in some areas that we would hope to have. But I think it just goes to show the importance of having the sort of character to still be able to grind out a result when you're not playing well, which I can't say we've done much of in recent times. Normally, when we have a stinker, we end up getting turned over 5-0 by Portsmouth or something like that. So it's really refreshing. So yeah, I do think obviously a part of that has to be coming from the manager. I think he's sort of putting the belief in the players to be able to just go out there with no fear and just do what you've got to do. And that is, at the end of the day, they're coming off I haven't seen a match in the league, at least. I haven't seen a match this season where I think they've come off the pitch without leaving 100% on there. Obviously, we can argue about the Chef Wed game in the cup, but that's irrelevant now for me. So, and it's just like I don't even know how to say it. Basically, we are very good compared to these top teams in this league, even at the minute when we've got, most would agree, much less quality than some of them. I mean, obviously, as you were saying, Stoke, like Liam Delap, it's obvious that he's going to be a star in the future. I mean, I think, was it 15 million Southampton bid for him to get him on a permanent City, and they turned it down, and obviously because they see him as a long-term play for them, and then so they've sent him down to Championship to get some experience, and he did look lively, but I think he was dealt with well for the most part as by the sort of makeshift defence that we use at the minute. Obviously, O'Nine's been playing okay at centre back, but he's not a centre back, and we need at least one or two more in. Obviously, especially with Ballard being out now. So yeah, it's just like we'll just see. I think the sky's the limit with this squad at the minute, especially when we've still got most of our business and improvements to make.
Yeah. And also, like Dylan said there, Michael, 3 points. We didn't play well for large parts of the game, but it is probably the biggest positive in football if you can win games when you're not playing well.
It is. And if you want to look at it this way, remember the podcast we were doing a week ago when we should have beat QPR, which was arguably our best performance of the season by some distance, especially earlier on in the game, and we ended up contriving to concede 2 late goals. So it comes in roundabouts. I think we probably deserve that after after the last couple of games when really we should have probably got more points than we did from them. So yeah, yesterday we didn't play well. First half especially didn't play well. Second half I thought we controlled enough of the game to deserve the 3 points. But again, you need to win games all different ways. And at the end of the day, points on the board over performances. Yes, you want to have both, but obviously you know which one you pick if you have to choose one or the other.
Yeah. Well, obviously, they did finish 1-0, and that win does take Sunderland up to 5th at this stage in the season. Again, still early days, so that means quite frankly nothing at this stage, but it always is a good thing to see when you are in the top 6, especially first season get promoted. Long may that continue. But player ratings we'll get into, and starting with you, Michael, with Anthony Patterson.
Oh, probably again a standard 6. Again, I didn't think he had, from what I can remember, I don't think he had that much to do. But again, like I say, with him almost every week at this point, I think when he had to do something, he did it well enough. And I didn't get the criticism he got after Sheffield United, but kept a clean sheet yesterday. Can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, John?
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. There wasn't too many dangerous chances from them, but every time he had to get in there and punch the ball out from a corner, things like that, he just went there and did it. So he didn't put a foot wrong, despite not having too much stressful work to do. But yeah, that's why I'll give him a 6.
Yeah. Linden Gooch, obviously he scored midweek against Sheffield United. Very good goal there. Kept his place in the team as expected. Granted, we don't really have too much competition to play in that same position, Michael, but I think he had a solid, if not unspectacular game.
I thought defensively he was really good. I think maybe I'm being generous, but I would go as far as to say a 7. I think going forward he wasn't particularly great, but again in the first half I'm not going to level that at him because as a whole we weren't good collectively going forward. In the second half there was one good run that he made, which he then lost the ball in the final third, which could have led to an attack from Stoke, like a good attack going for them. But defensively I thought he was really good. I thought he knew when to stop the momentum of the game. I thought he knew when to defend his area well. And I think for me, yes, you can say he's not a right back or a right wing back, but I think he's making that position his own at the moment.
Yeah, that is fair enough. Done.
No, I completely agree with the 7. Obviously, we've said on here before that he's by no means a defender, but I think as Michael's just said, he was very good yesterday. I think in terms of defensively, I think that was his best defensive performance that I've seen so far. And obviously, not everything came off from going forward, but when he's on the pitch, he's always going to at least try and take his man on, and it's just that sort of attitude that you need in these sort of games where you need to just keep going forward no matter what to get the result. So yeah, I'll give him a 7. I thought he was very good.
Yep, that is fair. League 1-9, also in the right side defence, was hooked at half-time on a yellow card. Interesting performance, I think. Didn't do too much wrong, I don't think, but obviously that yellow card did hinder him a little bit, especially in the first half, Michael.
For me, I'd go with a 5. I thought he was very ropey at the back. I didn't think he would be. I think there was a couple of moments when he just did basic things like heading the ball back towards Patterson when there was a man on him. But who was it? I think Liam Delap, I think, was starting to cause him quite a few problems, though.
I think it's fair. I think there was definitely a few times that Liam Delap did that probably was a foul, to be fair. I think there was definitely one. I think he did it twice in the corner of obviously the Sunderland area. I think he won a corner from it in the end. I mean, the first coming together there, obviously there was 2 that led to the corner, but the first one, he just goes straight into his back. Like, that's a foul. It wasn't given, but yeah.
I think you're putting too much faith in the officials in this league to get things right, unfortunately. We know what they're like. Yes, okay, they should have been fouls and free kicks. For me, I still felt there was times that he didn't look very convincing. But again, if I'm going to give credit to the guy, and again, if I'm going to give him a bit of leeway, it's because we've had to play, twice in 3 days, 3-4 days, and away from home. But for me personally, I didn't think he looked as convincing. I think there were times he did okay, but at times I think the yellow card did definitely hinder him. And I think for his sake, it was good that he went off. So I'd go with a 5.
Yeah, Dylan.
Yeah, I think he was all right. Obviously, it's a tough ask for him to try and man mark Delap out the game, especially because Delap's like so much taller than him. So obviously, in the air, he was never going to be able to properly compete. But I think I saw someone say on Twitter, and everything that came on the floor, he dealt with reasonably well. But obviously, he's got booked and he's had to be pulled up at half time. So yeah, I'd say 5 or 6. I'll say 5.5, just for the sake of
To
it.
be different.
Be a man.
Danny Bart in the middle of the defence. I would just think, like I said that there, and I just thought of that song, Middle of My House. What is it? Middle of the Street, My House, isn't it?
Middle of the 3, yeah.
Middle of the 3, My Bart. That's a new chant, isn't it? That's going to be a great chant. That's getting tweeted, 100%. See that on Twitter very soon. But anyway, obviously his return to Stoke, obviously that's where we did sign him from, and I think he actually won Stoke's Player of the Month for the December, and I think he joined us in January, wasn't it?
That's
I think
correct.
it was. But, he's played well in most of the games so far this season. Again, he's another player that some people were a little bit kind of sceptical of as to whether he'd step up to the Championship, keep up to the pace of the game. And obviously, that has been a few times so far this season. He's been caught out from, a pacey front line, Sheffield United especially. But, the way Stoke played, I think he had a good game. He won his headers a few times. As you could tell his experience just from simple things, a ball over the top, and a lot of defenders in the same situation would have just headed it away. Stoke maybe come back and get it, but he knew where his goalkeeper was, knew where the attacker was, just heads it back to Patterson and just relieves all the pressure from the team. So I thought he was fairly good throughout the game.
7. I think Danny Bart just showed his worth yesterday. Actually, I love this. I think someone, who was it? I think a Stoke fan on Twitter put something along the lines of, imagine letting him go and signing the likes of Jagielka. And I can't remember, there's another centre back they mentioned. They said Michael O'Neill masterclass, which I think just tells you how much that he seemed to disagree with the idea of letting Danny Bart go. And I think that's another good bit of business by the recruitment. Yes, he's 31 years old. And obviously he'll have a few years left in him, but for now, I think he's more than competent enough. He's doing a job. He's proven why he's in the team, and I think, like Evans put a calming influence at the back, I think Danny Bart was in the middle. I think Danny Bart had just the same effect on the back line.
Yep, I would agree with that. Don't.
Yeah, I'd give him a 7 as well. As we've just been saying there, he was always there to stick his head on any balls floating anywhere near the box. He was just clearing it at every opportunity. The only thing I will say about him is sometimes is passing out from the back slightly questionable, but I think his defensive prowess this game and his contributions from that front were more than enough to make up for that. He was definitely on the ball today. And I think he just plays very well in that 3. Obviously, that was when he was at Wolves. That's the sort of system he was playing in, and he was assured of what he could do there. And I was another one I was worried about whether he'd be able to step back up the Championship after obviously making the drop down. But he certainly proved me wrong, and I'm very, very pleased to see he's playing well.
Yeah. Left side of defence, Dennis Cirgan, who I thought was probably the best player on the pitch during the game. He's been excellent all season, and like a few people have said, he looks more assured in the Championship than he did in League One. Obviously, again, we kind of talked about this. I can't remember if it was in the preview pod or on the last review pod after the Sheffield United game, but we signed him as a left back from Tottenham. And obviously, like James Copley said when he was on, there was a lot of circumstances that surrounded the move. Obviously, his father passed. He's moving away from home at what I think he was 19 at the time. So there was a lot of circumstances. He hadn't played senior football before last season, so for him to have come on as much as he has is quite incredible. He's changed position, and he just doesn't look out of place in the Championship. And people think, again, I said about Matete at the start, same with Dennis Cirgan. People forget he's 20 years old. He's younger than all of us. And I think he was, again, excellent against Stoke yesterday, Michael.
God, you're making me feel old now. Thanks.
Makes me feel old as well. I'm only a year older than him.
Well, and that's your own fault. You said it. But to be fair, though, you're right. I mean, Dennis Cirgan is someone that I've never understood how some fans wrote off. And it's opinions. It's more than fine. They're entitled to it. I just disagreed with it strongly. I think Cirgan is one of the only fullbacks I've seen at Sunderland who's actually capable of defending. And for me, I think that fullbacks should be expected to be capable of defending. And yes, yeah, I think spoiler for man of the match, I think I'll probably agree. I think Cirgan was really, really good. I think that Alex Neil said in his post-match interview after the game on the club Twitter that he only got, I think, caught once in behind from a long ball over the top, but otherwise nothing got past him. Positionally was very good. Knew when to defend. Knew when to pass out from the back. Knew when to clear it. I think I'm just singing it. I think I'm stealing everything, so Dylan can't say anything, poor lad, because I think Cirgan was really good. Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I think I'd go as far as an 8, maybe even a 9 potentially.
Yeah, just tweeted that Danny Bart chant to see the reaction, because I think that's a banging chant personally. But anyway, back to the point. Dennis Cirgan done.
Michael's absolutely hit the nail on the head. So since he's just said everything on that front, I'll just say, don't put me in the same category as you pensioners, because Dennis Cirgan's actually 2 months older than me.
Is he?
So
I thought you were older.
That's all I'll say on that regard. But yeah,
no, we're going to put you in that category, Dylan, to make us feel better.
Still plenty of time for Dylan to come on and sign for Sunderland then.
Exactly. You know, if I lose like 5 stone and get me stamina up a bit, I can spray good already. So
to be fair, if Daniel can do it, then Dylan can do it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. Because I mean, he's crap anyway. No, I'm joking. But I'll give him an 8. I thought he was outstanding, and I agree with what you're both saying. He was definitely our best player, and I'm just really glad to see him doing well on the left side of that 3. And I hope long may it continue. I'm still a bit worried if he keeps playing this well come the end of the season. Is it not like a 6 million?
6 million, yeah.
I mean, if he has a really good year, there's no reason why they wouldn't pull him back and then flog him on for 10 million. So,
I mean, if it's anything to go by, that's exactly what they did on the Football Manager CFR just did. Signed them for 6 million, and then literally 4 days later sold them for 10. So
who to sell him to?
You know what? I think it was Stoke. I think it was actually Stoke.
Right. Okay. So that's unrealistic because Stoke rubbish. I'm joking. Nah. Hopefully
They were in the Premier League on my save, so that is definitely not going to happen this season. I don't think.
They must have changed managers then.
Must have. Changed commentary team as well. Hopefully. Jack Clark, left wing back, again another player that obviously came from Tottenham, very similar to Dennis Cirgan, young player. He's around the same age, I think he's about 21. So definitely older than Dylan this time. But again, you know, he's been out on loan a few times. I think he was actually at Stoke on loan. He's been to QPR on loan. I think he's been somewhere else on loan that I can't think of where. So, you know, he hasn't really had a club that in theory you can call his own. So it's always difficult as a young player when you sign up for one team, coming back to your parent club, going back to another, because you can't learn to kind of adapt your game to the position that you're actually going to be playing there. You know, I think when he signed for QPR, he was playing right wing. Obviously signed for Sunderland, he's playing left wing back. So it's going to take time to adapt to a new position, new surroundings, new expectations and whatnot. But again, similar to Cirgan, I think he's coming on with each game. He's learning to track back defensively. He's still a little bit of I want to say weakness, probably a bit of a harsh word to use, but that is definitely the weakness in his game, is defensively. He gets caught out a few times, but you know, he's a natural winger. He's 21. He's played probably about 4 or 5 games as a wing back in his career, because I think he was mainly played as a winger last season. So he will learn from it. He'll get better. And again, you know, he got the assist to Ross Stewart's goal yesterday, Michael.
Yeah, I think 7's about fair, considering he did get the assist. And I agree, but all the points I agree with you that you said, I agree. And I think, and I've said this before as well, I think the fact that he's got a home now and somewhere that he can hopefully settle, as opposed to going out on loan all the time, basically like what Patrick Roberts had to put up with the last few years, I think will make a difference. And I said that if you get him settled, you will see a better version of Jack Clark. And I think that's paying dividends at the minute. I thought yesterday he was okay, but obviously he got in the. But the pass for me, I thought was very good for the goal. So I would say a 7.
Yeah, Dylan?
Yeah, I agree with the 7. I think what you're saying there about him having a home is now is definitely true. He looks very happy, and obviously with him playing as a wing back now, so he needs to maybe just touch up on his defending a bit. But I think it's already starting to improve, and it'll only improve with time. And it's nice to see that him playing in a more defensive role forward play, because obviously he's scored already now this season, and I think he's only going to get better and better as the season goes on, and I'm delighted for him. So yeah, I'll give him a 7.
Probably should unmute my mic. That would help.
That would probably help.
We'll get through these last few ones. I say last few, we're only halfway through, but we'll try and rattle through these as quick as we can because we are dragging on a little bit. Jim Teddy in midfield, obviously he was another player that was hooked at half time on a yellow card, and unlike a few of the yellow cards in the game, I don't think there was any question his. It was cynical to say the least. But he got on the ball. He's very good on the press. He's fast, he's quick, he's mobile. And he's very hard to push off the ball. I wouldn't say he's necessarily strong, but similar to quite a few other players that just have this kind of low sense of gravity where it's just very hard to get them off the ball. He's another player that's young. He's going to get better with more game time, whether Sunderland offer him that or whether he goes out on loan. But up until the yellow card and up until he got subbed off, I thought he was okay, Michael.
I thought he was. I'd probably say, actually, because I don't know. I think there were times that he got a little bit overrun, but I thought he actually showed decent energy when he had to. I think I'll be generous and go with a 6 for him. I think he did all right, but like with Luke O'Nien, I think it's just the fact that Evans comes on and is able to control the game, and I think if Matete had Evans alongside him, I think he probably would have been able to play the whole game rather. But yeah, I think probably about a 6. The yellow card definitely did affect him, I think.
Yeah, that is fair enough, Dylan. Jim Matete.
I find the test. I agree. I agree with the 6. I think obviously it was a good decision to take him off when he was on the yellow, because he was as Michael just said there, he was getting a bit overrun at times. But I think a lot of people, I don't know, well, it's just the people on Twitter mostly, but a lot of people have already sort of written him off, saying that they think we should just get rid of him now. But which I completely disagree with. But I think it was nice. He showed a lot of glimpses of the potential that we were under the impression he had when he first came in. So I'm hoping that he can kick on now, especially as he's probably going to be getting more minutes in the next couple of games, obviously, because we've got no midfielders basically other than him, Neil and Evans. Obviously, Evans normally plays further forwards. So yeah, no, I'll give him a 6. He did his job well, despite getting caught out a few times. But hopefully he can just keep getting the ball.
Yeah. Elliot Embleton, Michael, I thought he was kind of invisible, to be honest, during the game. Didn't do too much. He's a very creative player, can make things happen out of nothing, but I don't think he did too much of that during the game.
Probably again for me, I thought he was okay. I thought he was functional. I thought he got in the heart of some decent interchanging passes in the second half. I think I'd probably go with another 6 for him. It was, I think the word used to describe Gooch is the word I'd use to describe him. For me, he was solid enough, but far from spectacular.
Yeah, that is fair, Dylan.
Yeah, no, I agree with the 6. He didn't do much. I mean, there was the odd time he was sort of just like a decent bit of dribbling in and around their box, which obviously ended up not coming anything. But he did his job good enough for us to be 1-0 up come the end of the first half. And I think it would be cruel to give anyone under a 6 for a win. So yeah, I'll say a 6.
Yeah. Alongside, in front of him was Alex Pritchard, Michael. Again, we know how good he is. Showing flashes of that during the game, but because of how Sunderland played in the first half, the inability to keep the ball, an inability to play the ball, plenty of passes that just should be simple that weren't made simple. So in terms of getting Pritchard on the ball, we did find it difficult, like I say, especially in the first half. He did see more of it in the second, and again showed his quality. So I think I know where this one's going.
7, probably. I thought second half. I thought again, like what Evans did in a bit of a deeper role. I thought Pritchard helped to just win the ball back and was scrapping for literally every single pass that he could. Even when he's up against someone who's about a foot taller than he is, it still didn't stop Pritchard from actually trying to compete for the ball and trying to win it. So to be fair, though, I think second half, I think he grew better as the game went on. I think the first half, again, hardly anyone from an attacking point of view was able to flourish given how the performance was. But second half, when we actually were starting to get on the ball a lot more, I think Pritchard was a lot more instrumental. So I'd personally go with a 7. I don't know whether that's just subverted your expectations or not, but there you go. That's the rating.
That is fair. Dylan, Alex Pritchard.
Yeah, I was thinking 6 or 7. As Michael said, they definitely improved in the second half. But it's just every single game he just shows his quality, even against tough opposition. Obviously, as you said, he's going up and trying to compete physically with players like that tower over him, and it's just that sort of work ethic combined with his like sheer technical ability that just makes him a key player for us. And yeah. So 6 or 7, Alex Pritchard is the best footballer in the world.
As a bold claim, but one I can get behind.
Yep.
Until we get on to the front two, of course.
Oh,
Ellis Sims, Michael, once again shows what he brings to the team. Held the ball up. He's unbelievably strong. I knew he was a big lad when we signed him. Knew he'd, cause problems. But in terms of how strong he is and how he holds the ball, how he holds off defenders, is a lot better than I actually expected him to be.
Until you watch him play, don't you?
Yeah. And obviously, he's quick. His ability to pass the ball. I think we saw it against. It was either I think it was Sheffield United. There was one time where he made like a 60, 70-yard pass on the turn straight to Ross Stewart, and I think he did the same again later on in the game when Ross Stewart went around the keeper and probably should have scored and obviously wrapped the game up, and it would have been a lot of a less nervy ending to the game yesterday, but it didn't happen, but we still won anyway. So he's another player that is very young. Unfortunately, at this time, he's not our player. Whether that changes next season or not, obviously I think Everton do actually have the chance to recall him. So based off how their season's going so far and the lack of strikers they have available, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in January. Hopefully not. But yeah, I thought he was a handful throughout, posed a threat, held the ball up well, linked up with Stewart. Everything you ask of him, really.
Well, if Everton do recall him in January, hopefully they've got a striker by then, and they're only recalling him so we can buy him permanently.
Or we can have Calvert-Lewin instead. Have him on loan.
That wouldn't be a bad option either. I'll agree on that. But yeah, with Sims, I think it again. Right off the first half, because again, I didn't think like most of the team we weren't able to do that much. Second half, I thought again just showed his strength. I'm like you said, I'm impressed by the fact he's got a bit of pace about him. He's got strength about him. He's able to hold players off. And there were times when he was holding one or two players off at a time, trying to shield the ball from Stoke. So for me, I would go with a 7 again, and probably had a chance later on to make it less nervy. Not quite as good as the Ross Stewart chance that really should have been 2-0, but he still was able to just do simple things such as get us up the pitch and really just relieve pressure. So honestly, that's the only bad thing, that he's on loan and he's not permanent. Tragic.
Yet, of course.
Not yet.
When we get promoted, Anyway, Dylan, Ellis Sims.
That is true.
Yeah, I'll give him a 7 as well. I think something that we were saying last season about Ross Stewart is that the best part about him was that even in games where he wasn't scoring, he still caused a load of problems and getting involved with the link-up play. And Ellis Sims has come in and he's just doing the exact same thing. It's just so nice to see that they're both playing well alongside each other. And yeah, obviously I think he was unfortunate not to score. It wasn't the easiest of chances, but he still I was backing him to took it away, and he was unfortunate not to score there. But he's just up front holding the defenders off, passing the ball to Stewart, Pritchard, and he's got enough arms. He's got the arm strength to play in the NFL the way he's holding off some of these players. So yeah. And he's got a beautiful big afro. And
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, so let's give it a 7, but 10 for the hair.
Yeah, I'd agree.
7 for his afro.
No.
It's good set of hair. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Say the only player with an afro Sunderland have ever had.
Ooh,
it's a good quiz question.
It's certainly the only player I can think of with an afro we've had for ages. Ever.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you thinking. I'm going to next time we do a quiz, that's one of the questions. Have Sunderland had another afro player, or who was the other afro player? Probably not the best way to describe it.
Why don't, when you put the podcast out and tweet in alerting of the podcast, is Ellis Sims the only player with an afro hair we've had? Find out on the podcast. It sound like we've got a definitive answer.
It's an interesting question, though, isn't it?
It is. It would have been a much easier.
It's one of those when people say you've got what you didn't know you needed. You think that's the question I didn't know I wanted answering.
Did Modibo Diakite, however you say his name, did he have an afro? I don't think he did he?
Afro, he just had slightly bushy hair.
I'm quite frustrated that I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm gonna have to look this up after. But anyway, back to the point of the whole thing. Ross Stewart, last but not least, he was the one that got the goal. Should have had a second. I don't think anyone would hide away from that one. A bit of a heavy touch, took it around the keeper, and he kind of gave himself the impossible task of trying to finish from what was a very tight angle. But it was his goal that won the game. Should the keeper have done better with it? Yeah, but who cares, to be honest. So, Michael?
Yeah, well, 8 for me, because he got the match winner. And I think we all know his attributes by now. We've watched it for about 18 months or so at this point. He's got the ability to hold the ball up, to get around the pitch. And the only thing I would say about Ross Stewart, and obviously it's not even his fault that annoys me, is the fact the amount of times he gets basically manhandled and gets absolutely nothing from the officials. But it's just got to the point where it's a joke at this stage. But with Ross Stewart, again, aside from the chance that he should have scored, I thought he had a good game yesterday, and obviously got the match-winning goal, so I'd go with an 8.
Yeah, and last but not least, Dylan?
Yeah, no, he's excellent. He gets an 8 from me as well. He's basically a totem pole with a killer right foot. A totem pole. No one tell Ryan Giggs I've just said that. But yeah, no, he's made the step up to the championship, and he's playing with the same sort of physical prowess and dominance that he was doing so in the league below. And as again, long may it continue. So 8 out of 10, some boy.
Yeah. I normally skip man of the match because I just go with whoever's given the highest rating, but I completely forgot all the ratings from the past 10 players. So, Michael, man of the match?
Well, you said it for me earlier, Dennis Cirgan. I think that lad continues to impress, and I think it's a good sign to not write someone off so quickly and actually let them develop.
Yeah. Is Dylan going to be edgy and go with someone else just for the sake of being different? Or was Dennis Cirgan head and shoulders above everyone else?
Normally I would try a bit edgy, but Dennis outstanding.
Oh, that's an anticlimax.
I'm so sorry. He was so he's gonna have to get my man the match as well, because we all said he was the best player on the pitch, so I'd look like I didn't have a clue if I said something. Now
that is a fair point. I forgot we all said that. I did. But anyway, next match is of course Norwich at home. We have a week, 6 days break by the time this comes out. Obviously it is Sunday now. No midweek game is a blessing. Gives people a chance to rest. Obviously in terms of injuries, I don't think anyone was missing that will actually be back for Saturday. Obviously Dan Ballard is probably out until end of the World Cup, really, which I think ends in late stage of December, possibly January. I'm not entirely sure on the schedule of that, but that's probably
when we start mid-December, don't we? We start on mid-December, so yeah. But I agree with you. I think he won't be back till after that.
Yeah. So in terms of other injuries, I don't think anyone else was missing that could be in tension for Saturday's game. So I'd like to think we'll have a few players in between now and then. Obviously the Jewison Bennett. Bennett sounds better. Sounds more what's the word I'm looking for here?
Exotic.
That's the one. Yeah,
Foreign
exotic.
Name?
Nah, exotic. A very exotic name, Bennett. Better than Bennett.
Yes, come on.
Obviously, he's been rumoured to have signed. I'm not convinced he's a real player at this point, but I think he signed. Obviously, just sorting work permit and whatnot out, and I think he is due to fly to England. I'm not going to specify where to complete a deal. And of course, a defender on loan from Brighton, Van Heck. I think it's Paul Van Heck. I think is supposedly.
I think it's Jan Paul Van Heck.
Yeah, it's a long name. There's got to be a chant for that one as well. I'll work on that.
Just say Van Heck.
Yeah. What the heck? Yeah. Go for that.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's meant to be signed on loan. Whether that happens before Saturday or not, I'm not too sure. But I'd like to think we might have one or two more on top of that in for Saturday's game, whether they feature or not. So starting 11-wise, I don't think it'll be too much different from what we saw, especially in the second half against Stoke. So predictions for Saturday's game, though, Michael, first and foremost.
Very quickly, is Dan Neil back for this game?
He is.
Right, okay.
I believe.
Yeah, we haven't won a home game, as I said earlier, so I think we could do the getting the first home win sooner rather than later. Don't think it's going to come in this game, though. I think it'll be I'll go with a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be quite an entertaining game. But to be fair, against Norwich, recently relegated Premier League team who's just won 2 on the bounce, I'd probably take that now if I was offered it.
Yep. Dylan?
I'll be edgy. I'll say we're going to win. We're going to win 2-1. That Josh Sargent got a brace on Friday will score again, but then he'll realise that he's not even the best American on the pitch, and he'll go disappearing for the rest of the match, and then we're going to get 2 goals in the second half.
Oh, it's going to be an interesting game for Kyle, isn't it?
Yes.
Sargent versus
Yes, it
Gooch.
is. You're right. You're right. Hang on. How early is Kyle going to have to get up to watch the game, though? Because it's 12:30 here.
be about 7 o'clock, I think. Kick-off time, 7:30, I think. I think 5 hours behind, I think. Most parts in America. So I think some of them are like 7 or 8 hours behind, depending where. But I think usually it's 5 hours, so about 7:30 kick-off in America for that one.
He's definitely going to need his coffee for that, isn't he?
He is. I think I would as well, to be fair. Nice full English breakfast at the Carvery. Nice coffee, and then half-time pint.
Now you're talking.
But yeah, a win for Dylan, a draw for Michael. Very boring, but I respect it. But of course, we'll have a preview out for that game in the coming days, hopefully. A few signings, like I say, I expect to come in between now and then. So of course, we'll have pods out to discuss them, what to expect from them, and whether there will be good additions for Sunderland based off opposition fans' views on them during their time at their club. And of course, after the Norwich game on this Sunday, we will have a reaction to that game, player ratings, another rant at the referee, and something else, probably out of the blue, that we'll mention as well. But it's been a pleasure. We will be back very shortly with another podcast. But until next time, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.